you, Chairperson. My name is Takayama. We strongly propose to adopt a plan to prohibit worker dispatching. Worker dispatching is the indirect employment system consisting of three different parties, namely dispatching agency, dispatch worker, and client company. We will take 6 months for publicity. Advantage 1. Working conditions will be improved. A present situation. Indirect employment has systematical effects for dispatch workers. First effect, layoff easily. According to Ms. Nakano, lawyer said in 2009, the client company does not employ dispatch workers directly. Therefore, they do not consider at all what happens to them or their families if they cut them. Second effect, no safety net. Ms. Nakano also said in 2009, there are many dispatching agencies that do not guarantee annual or maternity leave, nor take out labor or unemployment insurance for their workers. B effect, plan will automatically change the employment system from indirect to direct. 1. Companies will continue to hire former dispatch workers as the regular contract workers or part-timers in order to keep their labor power. 2. First effect will be solved. Workers will be protected by the law not to be fired. According to Mr. Joe, consultant said in 2009, regular workers in Japan are well protected. Thanks to the 4 conditions for layoff based on the labor standards law, it is next to impossible for a company to lay off their regular workers. 3. The second effect will be also be solved. Safety net will be guaranteed, even for the part-timers. According to Article 8 of the revised part-timer law, it is prohibited to treat part-timers differently as long as part-timers do the same jobs as regular workers. See importance. Unemployment without safety net is serious. You can easily imagine if you recall the news of Toshikoshi Hakemura. Advantage 2. Storing know-how will increase productivity. A. Present situation. Companies cannot store know-how. According to Mr. Kumano, chief economist, said in 2008, as the rate of non-regular workers becomes higher, storing skill, such as technical ability inside Japan, will be difficult. Under the situation of aging society, it is essential to store skill of each worker and improve the GDP per worker. Looking back on the past decade, although companies have become slim, the burden of regular workers increased and lose the time to educate people. The effect, all the workers will be hired directly. 1. Companies will continue to hire former dispatch workers in order to keep the labor power. 2. Actual example to hire regular workers. According to Nikkei newspaper August this year, the movement to hire regular workers is spreading among companies. In 2008, Marubeni Corporation decided to hire 27 regular workers for the first time in 9 years. Although Marubeni Corporation has utilized dispatch workers since 2000, they face difficulties in storing and taking over know-how. 3. As a result, increasing the number of regular workers will decrease the burden of each regular worker. C. Importance. Storing know-how will increase productivity. Educating workers is more beneficial than cost-cutting in the long viewpoint. According to Ms. Genjo at Japan Labor Bureau said in 2005, Yasukawa Electric Corporation has decreased the number of regular workers by 1,200 in total to cut labor costs for 6 years, accounting for 30% of all regular workers. The bad effect appeared, that is, decreasing the morale of workers. Careless mistakes increase and products are returned. When a company depends on the subcontractors to dispatch workers too much, bad influence will be seen in terms of storing technique and quality control. For all these reasons, we strongly propose to adopt a plan. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. We will now have a 1-minute circulation class. Designers English. We will now have questions for the negative part of English.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Masaru Nagase. Let me ask you some questions. About your first advantage, so you say the former dispatch workers will become regular, will become part-timers or something, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so, what's the difference in working condition between part-timers and dispatch workers? Do you have any evidence on it?
Okay, difference between part-timers and
dispatch workers.
Okay, dispatch workers doesn't have any safety net, and they are easily to be laid off.
Okay, thank you. So, what's the definition of safety net?
Safety net is something that protect or guarantee the worker, like annual maternity leave or labor and unemployment insurance.
Okay, so do part-timers have safety? Do all part-timers have safety net?
Yes.
How can you say that? Do you have any proof on it?
We said it in advantage 1, B effect 3.
Thank you. So about your second advantage, so by storing the knowledge and by storing know-how, companies' productivity will improve, right?
Yes.
So why know-how is stored, productivity will increase. So
because if they have know-how, they can.
do you have any evidence on it? It seems you don't.
No, but we have evidence that the Yasukawa Electric Corporation productivity decreased because of dispatch workers.
So what I want to ask you is that why know-how is stored, will productivity increase? So you never mentioned that point. It seems your source is just theory. So I want to go to the next question. So about your first advantage, so you mentioned Toshikoshi Hakemura, right?
Yes.
So it is Toshikoshi Hakemura was created because there were a lot of jobless people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you know the number of dispatch workers now?
The number of dispatch workers.
Yeah. Okay, it's over 3 million. So don't you think it is impossible to employ all of them after the production? We believe most of them will be jobless. Thank you.
Question Science English. We will now do the negative part practice speech for 4 minutes.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Naohiro. Let me start negative constructive speech. We oppose that Japanese government should prohibit local dispatching. We have 2 reasons to support our idea. First, a lot of people will end up losing their jobs. Here is observation. Worker dispatching undertakings have prevented many people from being jobless for a long time. Keizai Sangyo Kenkido said, quote, due to the lack of information, it's difficult for unemployed people to find suitable jobs. Also, many companies have difficulties to find good workers. So dispatch companies have been playing an important role to match up companies and people seeking for jobs, unquote. We believe that the plan, as we mentioned, will cause some demerits. Link 1. It's impossible for companies to employ all dispatch workers as regular workers. Here is the proof from Asahi newspaper, quote, it's been reported that the total number of unemployed people is larger than 400,000. Moreover, the situation is getting worse. For example, NEC announced that they will lay off more than 9,000 regular workers, unquote. Link 2. We are in the midst of the World Depression. So it's difficult for an unemployed person to find a new job in a different field. As a result, we can say that this demerit will occur. As we consider the observation and links, we can state that the impact of the plan will be serious. there will be a lot of unemployed people in Japan, and there will be the cause of social unrest. Also, some will end up committing suicide. Here is the proof from Nihon Keizai Shimbun. Quote, the National Police Agency reported that there are 38,000 people who committed suicide last year. One of the reasons was that they lost jobs and suffered from poverty. Unquote. From this evidence, we can conclude that this demerit is very serious. Second, many companies will relocate overseas. Here is the observation. First, now many companies have to adjust employment conditions. We have a proof from Asahi newspaper which reads, quote, many companies have to adjust employment depending on the situation of their businesses. For example, American companies lay off regular workers. However, Japanese companies cannot take such actions. So dispatched workers are the good target. Unquote. Our second observation is that we are in the midst of the Great Depression. Therefore, many companies are facing the bankruptcy. The links to the plan is that, first, it will be difficult for companies to adjust employment conditions in Japan. Also, some companies will face the pressure of public opinions to hire more regular workers. The second link is that now companies try to relocate factories overseas to buy cheaper labor force. And we cannot stop this movement any longer after the plan adoption. Here is the proof from Asahi newspaper. Quote, the cost of Japan's labor market is very expensive compared with that of China. Therefore, many companies try to cover the demerit by the quality of individual workers. However, they are planning to relocate to overseas. Unquote. Also, according to Keizai Shimbun, after the plan is adopted, 20% of big companies will relocate overseas. From this evidence, it's obvious that the demerit will occur. If the plan is adopted, many Japanese companies will relocate their businesses overseas. And this means domestic industries will lose their power. This also means that the Japanese economy will be damaged. Here is the proof. Keizai Sangyo Kenkyō said, quote, it's been pointed out that Japan's economy will be damaged by the overseas relocation. Some of them worry that it will damage the productivity of each company. Also, Japan's economy will lose its power. Unquote. And more people will lose their jobs. Norin Chukin Sou Kenkyō said, quote, from 1990 to 2001, the number of people who work for foreign companies increases by 1,900,000 people, while the number of people who work in domestic manufacturing industry decreases by 2,210,000 people. Unquote. From this evidence, we can conclude that this demerit is serious. I repeat 2 points. First, a lot of people will end up losing their jobs. Second, many companies will relocate overseas. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will now have a 12-minute preparation time. Preparation time is ended. We will now have questions for the affirmative part for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Yukari Kitase. Let me start with a question. First, about disadvantage 1. Do you know how many people will they losing job?
A key point is that now Japan will now is on the world depression. So it's impossible for companies to employ all dispatch workers as real workers.
Okay.
So a lot of people will losing their jobs.
Okay. Do you know that unemployment is already happening right now? You know unemployment is already happening right now, right? Do you know that? Do you know that unemployment is already happening now?
Unemployed people.
Move on to the next one. What do you think the reason of unemployment?
You want to say?
Can I move on to the next question about disadvantage second? You mentioned that you say that 20% of big companies are planning to shift to overseas. But do you have any evidence that which part of which country are they planning to shift?
Okay.
Do you have any evidence? Yes or no?
But key point is that after the plant action, many companies relocate overseas because Japan's economy is foreign companies.
Okay, you say that company will shift overseas to look for cheaper labor power. Well, how much cheaper?
It is cheaper than Japan. It's clear. So, companies relocate overseas. Companies.
Okay, next, move on to the next one. Are you certain that all 20% of big companies will be successful?
But
why can you say that all of them will be successful after they shift overseas? You don't know for sure, right?
You won't say 20% of companies relocate overseas.
Are they going to be successful?
But if companies are not successful, companies not relocate overseas, so.
Okay. About disadvantage one, you mentioned about suicide is suicide caused by unemployment. So how many? Thank you.
Since this time has ended, more than now have their 2-minute deliberation times. We believe this time has ended. More than now to the negative certificate for the 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Ryokobashi. About AD1, they said after the plan adoption, the company will employ former dispatch workers and part-timers, but not true. Worker dispatching is indispensable to adjust employment. Here's proof. A professor of Boston University quote, employment adjustment is the key to cope with this serious depression. That's why many dispatch workers have been laid off, and now regular workers are also the target of employment adjustment, unquote. And the number of dispatch workers is over 3 million. They didn't mention about it, so it is impossible to employ all former dispatch workers. Next, what 82, they said if companies store skill and knowledge, their productivity will improve, but affirmative side did not provide any evidence on how storing skill and knowledge affected improving productivity. Therefore, we can assume that 82 is just a theory. Next, they said if dispatch companies become part-timer, their working conditions will improve, but not true. Here's the proof. 厚生労働省 2008 quote, according to the survey taken by the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare, the dispatch workers whose month incomes are lower than 100,000 yen are 8.8%, but in the case of the part-timers, they are 60%, unquote. The incomes of part-timers is worse than that of dispatch workers. And income is most important for living, so working condition of dispatch worker will never improve essentially.
Okay, thank you. We will now have questions from the affirmative side for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Shukamiko. Let me start affirmative question. First, I have to say a thing. I don't want to wait for your answer for 1 second. Okay, first, you said hiring all is impossible, right?
Yes.
Because the number of dispatch workers is huge.
And worker dispatching is indispensable to adjust employment.
What do you mean with that? What do you mean by that?
What I want to say is that if worker dispatching is prohibited, companies will go bankrupt.
Or
Because they can't control employment.
okay. Why does it have to be dispatched workers to control?
Sorry, one more please.
Sorry, nothing. And you said income is the most important thing, right?
Yes.
And okay, and this, you said in your first attack, if your workers are also laid off in this situation, right?
Yes.
So it's weakening your disadvantage one, isn't it? Because it shows your disadvantage cost is not unique.
Sorry, what do you mean? One more please.
You said regular workers are laid off now, right?
No.
In this situation.
What I want to say, worker dispatching is indispensable to adjust employment. It is what I want to say.
The regular workers are laid off now is the part of your attack, right? However, it's small. Thank you.
Thank you.
This time we will now hear affirmative attack speech for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Takayama. About disadvantage one, I have 5 attack points. First, they said all the former dispatch workers can't be regular worker. Yes, but we are saying that indirect employment system is a problem. They can be hired directly as part-timer or contract workers. Second, suicide, not only losing job is the reason of suicide. Third, even now there is unemployment, the cause of unemployment is not by the plan, disadvantage is not unique. Fourth, even if the employment occurs, they don't know how many dispatch workers will be fired. Fifth, if the employment occurs, it is temporary. We prove in our construct speech in advantage to effect second. Next, about disadvantage 2, I have 4 attack points. First, to advance companies to forging market cost a lot more to hire regular workers, different culture and language will be the difficult to learn the base. There is a case that company withdrawing its base from overseas. I have evidence. Second, to advance companies to foreign markets make strong know-how more difficult. So companies will hire regular workers in Japan. Many actually hire regular workers without advancing to foreign markets. Third, even if the companies shift, they do not know how many companies will shift to overseas operations. Economy will recover, but the birth system can't be changed without taking our plan. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now have questions on the negative side for 2 minutes.
Japan, my name is Takayama. Our disadvantage here is that economy in Japan will recover by the plan.
Yes.
I can say that. Do you have any evidence?
Naturally recover.
So you don't have any evidence. Okay. Next question.
Economy is recovery.
About disadvantage.
About disadvantage too. Third, even if the companies shift, they do not know how many companies will shift to overseas operations.
Okay, about disadvantage one. What's the HEnDA?
They said all the former dispatch workers can't be regular workers. Well, yes, but we are saying that indirect employment
Okay,
system.
what's the second?
Suicide, not only losing job is the reason of suicide. Advantageは if the employment occurs, it is temporary. We proved it in our contract speak in advantage to effect second. Thank you.
Question time is ended. We will now have a 2-minute translation time. the affirmative defense speech for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Shukomoto. Let me start affirmative defense. First, there is no attack on safety net, so it strongly remains, so please check it. And second, they've admitted dispatched workers can be laid off easily by saying dispatched workers is for adjustment. And third, they said dispatched workers indispensable in adjusting, but it's not on their constructive speech, and so we can see the relation. And they said being part-timer can improve the situation. However, part-timer can't because they have safety net, but which dispatched workers don't. And they said hiring always impossible. Because, however, it's possible because company needs to keep their labor power, and we have actually evidence of bargaining. And they said there's no evidence how to store know-how, and it's just theory, but it's not true. We have actual example, Yasukawa Corporation, saying by not hiring dispatched workers, productivity will naturally increase. And they said income is the most important thing, however, it's not. Can't you live without guarantee or insurance, ladies and gentlemen? Dispatched workers are being laid off without safety net. It's serious. And as all people know, economy is like a wave, so it will recover. And as we said, storing know-how is just theory, but it's not just theory, as our constructive speakers said by Yasukawa Electric Corporation. I'll repeat it again. Our employees is being laid off without safety net is serious, and hiring dispatched worker will decrease productivity. These are very important things. Thank you.
Thank you. Will you clear the negative defense speech for 2 minutes?
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Gifu. About disadvantage one, they didn't talk about social unrest, so please check this point. And they said after the time advantage, some dispatch worker will become part-timer, but even if they become part-timer, their working condition will be never improved. We said in our attack speech, the condition of part-timer is worse than that of regular dispatch workers, so it's just assertion. And about disadvantage too, they said it's not clear that how many companies will relocate overseas, but we said in our constructive speech, 20% of big companies will relocate overseas after the plan is adopted. So this means, so if company relocate overseas, it is clear that many people will lose their jobs, and some of them will commit suicide, and this called social unrest. This is very serious, and this plan itself will be carried out by the Japanese government, but because of this plan, many people will lose their jobs. Is it for workers? Of course not. And the best thing now we can do is that preventing people from being jobless. This is the point. About social unrest, they didn't talk about this, so please check this point. After the plan is adopted, it is clear that many people lose their jobs. This is very serious. And disadvantage too, they didn't oppose our observation and impact. So please check this point. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now have a 2 minutes information time. Places time has ended. We will now give informative summary for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Takayama. Let me start affirmative summary. In their negative attack, in the question they actually admitted that dispatched workers are easy to be laid off. That's why we have to prohibit worker dispatching, because they don't have any safety nets. That's why we have to protect them. But even though they became laid off, but they have safety net, so they can have time to look for another job. So which would you prefer, unemployment without safety net or unemployment with safety net? I think unemployment with safety net is much more better than unemployment without safety net. And they saying that the economic depression, they cannot hire all former dispatch workers, but the economy is kind of wave, so maybe as time passes, economy will recover. And unemployment is only temporary, but safety net will last forever, as long as workers are employed directly. And then move on to advantage second and disadvantage second. In this round, they couldn't give us specific information about shifting to overseas. We asked where companies are going and how much cheaper shifting to overseas is, but they couldn't answer, which means the process of this disadvantage is very vague. And as we attacked, shifting to overseas is very risky. There are many companies failed their businesses overseas. In addition, not many companies say that they would shift to overseas, only 20%. And there is no guarantee they will be successful. Maybe, so their disadvantage becomes weak. On the other hand, as we said in advantage second effect 2, the movement to hire regular workers is spreading among companies. So the big company like Marubeni choose to store know-how by hiring regular workers, not shifting overseas. So that's why our advantage is more important than their disadvantages. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now give the final speech of this round. The negative summary for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Masada. Please do my summary speech. First, I want to give the summary of disadvantages. About first disadvantage, it is clear that many former dispatch workers will be jobless, and that will be the cause of serious social unrest. The affirmative side didn't oppose this point, so please check it. About second disadvantage, it is clear that our evidence shows that 20% of Japanese companies will relocate overseas, so the impact of second disadvantage will surely occur by the plan. I want to give the summary of advantages. About their first advantage, they say the former dispatch worker will become part-timers after the production, but as we said before, the part-timer, even if the former dispatch worker will become part-timers, their working conditions will never improve. This is the point, please focus on it. And about their second advantage, they didn't show any proof, any evidence on the connection between storing knowledge, storing know-how and the productivity. So their assumption is just a theory. Finally, I want to make some comparison. When I compare AD1 and DA1, DA1 outweighs AD1. Here's the reasons. The affirmatives that admit the seriousness of Toshihose Hakemura in the construct speech. After the production, something like Toshihose Hakemura will be created again. Because after the production, there will be a lot of jobless people. They didn't avoid this point. That will, it will surely occur serious social unrest. This is the point. And after the about second disadvantage, they didn't oppose 20% of Japanese companies will locate overseas. So after the production, they are surely overseas, and if many companies locate overseas, domestic industry will lose its power, and Japanese employment condition in Japan will be worse. That means not only dispatched workers, but also regular workers will be jobless after the production. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This is the end of the debate. Thank you, debaters. We will now take a recess for a few minutes, so the judges can decide minutes. Audience and debaters, please be patient until the judge decides. Thank you.
First of all, I have to say that this was a very, very good game. And so good job to both teams. And this also was a very, very close game. And I have to start with saying that the decision was split, which means 2 judges voted for one side and the other one voted for the other side. And what was especially good about this debate was the summary speakers, who eventually gave us kind of different aspects of looking at the single phenomenon. And the main argument of the affirmative side was the first advantage, which argued that safety net is very important. And the arguments of the negative side are basically economy. So both the first dissent and the second dissent argue for the economy. And so we were thinking, which is more important, the safety net or economy? And on this point, summary speakers did very well. So what divided our votes was whether the economy was sure the plan will produce some jobless, and the jobless people, the size of the jobless people might be large. And the affirmative side argued that jobless people may be created, but the economy kind of circulates. So eventually, it's not going to be a big problem. On the other hand, the safety net will be provided eternally, so it's a bigger problem. And 2 overall judges thought that what the affirmative side said is true, or more convincing than the negative side. So 2 voted for the affirmative side. That's the decision. Did you get the point? So 2 of us thought that, the economy circulates, so jobless is less important than the safety net. So basically, that's what the summary speaker with the affirmative side argued. So if you have any questions or comments, please.
So which is the winner? We are thinking about which one wins.
Oh, right. So 2 of us, 2 of judges, voted for the affirmative side. Yeah.
Clearly, the affirmative one.
Right.
2-1.
Yeah,